If you don't meditate, you're probably meditating just on the wrong things. That is just one of the countless gems shared and discussed in today's conversation. Back for a third time is the one, the only Scott Fawcett of Decade Golf. And buckle up. This conversation goes far beyond strategy charts and strokes gained. It is a wide-ranging conversation that dives deep into the exploration of obsession, selfishness, nervousness, emotional regulation, meditation, spirituality, self-awareness, and so much more. And you'll notice that throughout the entire duration of the conversation is a theme, a potent cocktail, if you will, a recipe of intangibles designed to help any single person become elite, whether on the course or in their respective profession. Have your note-taking device, journal, or app handy. So much wisdom once again. Back for the third time, Scott Fawcett of Decade Golf. Let's dive in. Scott, round 3. I appreciate you being back. You ready to dig in?
Let's do it.
You've had the opportunity.
There's definitely been a few podcasts I've been on 3 or 4 times, but I didn't realize this was our third, I guess.
Time flies when you're having fun, man. And we've talked about a diverse range of topics, and we're going to go that direction again, and we'll start somewhere, see where we end up. But what I want to begin with is you've had the opportunity to work with and be around some of the best, skill-wise, results-wise. And I'm curious, in your observation and experience, what's the real difference mentally, emotionally, psychologically between a golfer who wants to play good golf and someone who is genuinely committed to winning?
Man, this is where it's hard for me because I'm a big Sam Harris guy. Getting to go watch him tomorrow night. He's in Dallas, but he's a big proponent of we all have this lack of free will, which I fully subscribe to. You don't get to pick your parents, you don't get to pick your intelligence, you don't get to pick where you were born. And when people think I say you have a lack of free will, they think that means you're just just floating through life and whatever happens. Like, no, you're still proactively making decisions, but you can only make decisions from the information you have at hand. So I am a huge Tony Robbins fan. I didn't find him until 2013, 2014. If I could have found a Tony Robbins book in my 20s, I think my life would have been completely different. So I didn't have the free will to believe or follow Tony's advice and thinking because I didn't even know it existed. So it's not, again, that you are just randomly flowing through life, but it's like you can't make a decision or a choice that wasn't laid in front of you at some point along the way. So what separates those people? They're just built different, man. I hate saying it that way, but they're just built different. They're again, tour players specifically are all a little neurotic. I don't know if that's the right technical term, but they're all kind of not weird, but like they're able to go practice and do the same thing over and over and over again to the most monotonous levels you can possibly imagine. They're able to be pretty selfish without realizing they're being selfish. Like I personally felt guilty staying out at the course sometimes a little too late for, girlfriend or wife or whatever. And again, when I say it that way, I feel like I'm saying like they're all a-holes. I'm definitely not saying that, but they're just wired differently. That's all there's to it. I mean, like personally, it is interesting looking back, and I've only admitted this to like 2 or 3 people. When I was playing professionally in my 20s, I did not like the feeling of being nervous. So playing in a US Open, I won a few times on the Hooters tour. Like I didn't like that knot in the stomach feeling at all. Now that I understand again, like the idea of reframing, I've got reframe tattooed on the inside of my forearm as a result of believing in it. Because if you I love roller coasters. I love the feeling of going on a roller coaster. And again, Sam Harris, I'll probably quote him 27,000 times because I get my Sam Harris excitement for tomorrow night. But he just talks about reframing the physiology of nerves for a roller coaster and nerves for in the heat of battle. Like the physiology is pretty much the exact same. And so I used to always try to not be nervous as opposed to being excited about being nervous. That means you're doing something. And a guy like Zalatoris, I mean, he legit just straight up loves that feeling. I don't feel like I'm the most competitive person on the planet. Whereas like Tiger, he would crawl through glass to beat your face in. I mean, he just would. And again, like I that does surprise people, but like if I'm playing a board game, I don't care if I win or lose. I'm trying to have some fun.
Yeah.
Playing golf, I really don't care if I win or lose. It just doesn't burn in me. So again, those guys are just wired for it, which is kind of a bad answer because if you're not, you're just not. And so
Well, I hear you though, and I love that answer candidly, because what I extract from it is two things. There's an obsession, and I love how you said they have this deep ability to fall in love with monotony, the same little thing over and over. So there's that obsessiveness, there's that ability to fall in love with the process and to prioritize it over everything else, no matter how boring or uncomfortable it is. And then two, they're selfish. And I know from my experience, and I'll let you chime in, of course, too, like that's the biggest block of achieving greatness for most people. Because like you alluded to, I find the same problems. You know, if I'm on the golf course, I'm away from my son or I'm not working. And like I can do that for a while, but that guilt starts to creep in. And sometimes I win that battle and sometimes I don't. But at the end of the day, coming back to you now, the reframe, can you see that selfishness as a way to fill your cup up so you can better be selfless on the back end with those you love and care about most?
I mean, again, I would fully agree with that. And it is interesting because as you were talking, I started thinking about when I started my electricity company, when I first quit playing professional golf when I was like 28 or 9, um, I was extremely selfish, but I got into a deal where it was just so easy to make money that I just worked 100-hour weeks for 4 straight years and, you know, basically ruined a couple of relationships with girlfriends that I probably should have married or at least considered. Um, but I was just like, this is just too easy. I'm just fully locked in. It would have been interesting if I actually had a PGA Tour card, if I would have become more comfortable with doing that. Whereas you just kind of floundering around on the mini tours. You aren't, the incentive just isn't quite there the same. But once I had an opportunity with incentive, I was able to do it, which maybe that's also me just getting a little bit older, being like, well, I'm not enjoying being broke. We're going to need to do something about this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, in either your experience or observing otherwise, have you found that winning demands, particularly an emotion or a handful of emotions that most people just resist or can't handle the discomfort of?
I mean, I would just reiterate the loving of nerves. I mean,
Okay.
there's just it's funny because you can just watch some people; they just clearly hate it. They're just uncomfortable and don't enjoy it. And like I'm saying, more like in a Friday Wolf game than out on tour. I mean,
Yeah.
most of those guys. I mean, I've worked with a couple of Corn Ferry players, and I never said this to their face, but I definitely was like, "You're just too nice." Like there was one kid that was he was just a world beater, but he was just a good dude, and he specifically said, like, "I feel guilty being away from home
Mm.
until 7, 8 o'clock at night, and my girlfriend's just back there with the dog, and I just show up, potentially frustrated from a long day, and just kind of I feel bad for coming in that way." And I was just thinking to myself, you're just kind of too nice. He's a really good dude, but just kind of too nice, man.
Well, it's funny you point that out because this is a lot of where my work goes with my clients is there's a big difference between being nice and being kind. And I don't know if you have a strong opinion one way or the other, but there's some great work. I'm going to butcher his name, like Dr. Aziz Gazipura, more or less the pronunciation. But his book is literally called Not Nice. And it's all about nice guy syndrome, being people pleasing, letting people walk over you, letting people's needs and priorities go above your own. Whereas being kind is boundaries, being clear on what you want, what you need, expressing it, and choosing guilt over resentment. Can nice guys climb to the top of the success ladder?
It's an interesting way of looking at it, honestly. I mean, I would certainly hope so. But I mean, again, that's kind of where I was going with the idea of the lack of free will. Like, there are just some people that are wired differently. I mean, it just
Yeah.
is what it is. And you maybe you observe that more as you get older, but like to get to the top of the top in any endeavor, you kind of have to be a little ruthless. I mean, I just and And
Yeah.
you're not, again, I hate saying it this way because I don't want people to feel, well, I'm screwed, but like, it's a really hard thing to force yourself into doing if it's just not how you're wired. You're going against the grain, and it's gonna either come off as fake, or you're just not gonna be able to sustain it for long periods.
Yeah, really well said. It's incongruent, inauthentic, and you're right. It's like trying to force. It's exhausting mentally, emotionally, physically, and inevitably there's some type of blow up, stagnation, or 5 steps backwards as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is where, like, with 2 daughters that are 12 and 16, and you're coming into a world of AI, and you don't exactly know what to tell them to go to college to study because you don't have a clue what's gonna blow up or not, and, hey, I've just told them both, like, I think it's if you're going to college right now, you should just go study psychology. Understanding
Hmm.
how and why humans do what they do will never be a bad thing for any job. I do believe that the vast majority of, like, professional type jobs, let's call that CPA, lawyer, your traditional things you would go to college for because I'm going to do this specifically. Like, I've got finance and econ degrees. I can kind of do anything with those. But if you're going to
Hmm.
get a tailored professional degree, the vast majority of that seems like it will be AI'd out of existence. I mean, at some point, you're just going to have someone that scans in documents and it just knows what to do with all of them. You'll still
Yeah.
probably always need it, like a CFO level person that understands the balance sheets and the interactions of it all. But eventually, like, I mean, once the computer beat a human in Go and chess, like, we're not going backwards. I mean, it's only going to get better. And I believe that's probably the case. Again, circling back to the idea of psychology. What did you ask there? Because I'm thinking through myself as I talk. What was your question there that maybe start going down that road?
Well, so I'm glad we went there, but it was piggybacked off of just can nice guys go to the top? And you mentioned there's an element of needing to be ruthless to get there, which I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, just yes, long story long, to get to the end of that sentence, yes, you have to be a little ruthless to get to the top. That's where I was going with trying to figure out what to tell your daughters what to do with their life. My oldest just
Mhm.
keeps on saying, "Well, do they make a lot of money?" And I'm like, it's easy for me to say as a guy who's been fairly successful financially to say that's not what it's all about, but it's just not. I mean, we need day-to-day excitement of what you're doing. And so the idea of to me of just I'm trying to get to the top because I want to be some multimillionaire, um, that's fun for a while. And
Yeah.
then there's obviously always going to have someone that has more, so you're never going to win that race. And then you realize that they've obviously got studies on this, but that every dollar past some certain amount, probably in America like 100,000 a year, it has extraordinarily quickly diminishing returns. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I bought a nicer car. That's fun for about 6 days. I bought a nicer house. Well, technically, unless you don't you need all the room, it's kind of just a pain in the butt. So, it's like there's just not a whole lot of reason. Nicer vacations, I mean, that's what I think is nicer vacations, everything like that, but
Yeah.
to try to force yourself to be this ruthless person so you can get to the top of whatever, I mean, it's just kind of a fool's errand in my opinion.
Well, then what I hear is an opportunity, and especially for somebody listening who is pushing to that next level of success, whether that's winning the club championship, getting their tour card, or something in between, is perhaps it's an honest evaluation of how you define winning, something that is completely within your control. Like, and I'm curious, Scott, how do you define winning, whether back when you were playing professionally or even now? What does it mean to win?
Back when I was playing professionally, I did it completely incorrect. It was purely what did I shoot today and how much,
Hmm.
what place did I finish and how much money did I make? That's not going to work long term because there's just too, especially in golf, there's just too many ups and downs. And so I define success honestly as just that whole 1% better every day. Your
Mm.
competition is yourself. I mean, I can't compete with Stuart Sink or Tiger Woods. I'm trying to pick guys that are my age, but I can compete with myself. Can I get better at this? And then just see how good you can get. That really is to me. But I would have never thought or known that. I mean, really, until the last 10 years of my life. I mean, I could have even said it, but I would not have believed it. Now I do ultimately really believe that your job is just having some pursuit that excites you to get up on a daily basis and go tackle. And I think that, again, circling back to AI, the further we get down that road, the more important that's going to be. And the hard part is this is where I get mad. If you listen to podcasts talking about it, it's like, it's going to free up everyone time to learn arts and music and everything. I'm like, well, not everybody likes that. I've bought drums, I've bought pianos, I've bought guitars, I've bought everything before because I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. And I do it for about a day and I hate it and I throw it away. I mean, it's just
on that AI note though, or go ahead, finish that thought.
It's just not everybody's wired that way. I mean, and so finding, again, whatever you enjoy doing and then really pouring all into it that's what's going to be able to sustain your happiness. I listened to a great podcast the other day where the guy said, the question was, basically he was just saying that happiness and unhappiness are not opposite sides of the same coin. If you don't have, like, dark is the opposite of light, but unhappiness is not the opposite of happiness. So what are we really wanting in life? Are we wanting more happiness or are we just wanting less unhappiness? And the vast majority of people I just want less unhappiness. We'll assume that the good stuff's going to be there, but I just want the suffering part to go away, which also is a fool's errand. Jordan Peterson has a great way he says this, where he's like, so what are you looking for? He's like, I just want to sit on the beach and drink margaritas. Like, really? All day? For how long? 6 months? Good luck. Good luck with that. It's just never going to happen. You're going to be miserable if you do that, both physically, mentally, everything. And so.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Brad Stulberg?
I don't think so.
So he just came out with a book literally a couple days ago. It's called The Way of Excellence, and I've been binging my way through that. He's written a lot about high performance excellence. He was a top-notch consultant at one of the big four consulting firms for a while, a writer, author, podcaster, everything in between now. But he talks about, there's two forms of happiness, if you will. The first lower level is, chasing pleasure, avoiding pain. For a little while, the pleasure of that cocktail on the beach, it's beautiful, not a care, stress, worry in the world. But it's short-lived. It's not sustainable. And ultimately, it serves as a catalyst for, the progression of decay. You get bored, you go crazy, you're not fulfilled, you're not contributing. Whereas, and I forget the technical scientific name, like eudaimonic, don't quote me on that, happiness is having a meaningful pursuit, where the expectation is there will be challenges along the way, but knowing you're doing meaningful work in an area that excites you, challenges you, and has purpose, that gives you a level of happiness or fulfillment that endures all of the chapters and challenges of life. And that really resonated with me because it just goes back to that. There's the short-term source, which is we open our phone and all that dopamine comes our way, or we write a book, we work on improving our golf game, and that's a fulfillment that lasts potentially a lifetime.
So the podcast that I was talking about was Chris Williamson with Arthur C. Brooks. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure he's a psychologist, psychiatrist, professor, whatever. And he did again, this is so random for a golf, whatever podcast, but we're both, I think, more keen in the mental side of everything. And that's why I just pulled these notes up while you were talking. He says that he has this game he plays with his students called What's My Idol game. And so we have four things we all chase. Just read this to you real quick. You don't pick which one. You eliminate. So it's pleasure, power, money, and fame. So these are the four things that if they are your idol, you're gonna suffer. I mean, unnecessarily. But you don't pick and say, I could give up money. You start with which one would you give up first? So let's say you're 90th percentile in money.
Okay.
Or just 90th in any of them. You have to go in order and say, which one would I take the population average of? So pleasure, power, money, fame. Personally, I don't care about power whatsoever. So I would get rid of power first. Second up for me is fame. As we were talking before we started, it was awesome at the PGA show 2 weeks ago, having a couple hundred people come up and tell me how awesome Decade is and how much it's helped them both in life and golf and everything. But I don't really, I don't need to be recognized in an airport. It's fun when it happens, rarely, but it is fun, but I don't care. The next one, though, is money and pleasure. And it's like, okay, going to the population average of either one of those, because I feel like I'm high on both of them.
Yeah.
Which one would be more painful? And for me, going to the population average in money, because I, for whatever reason, still stress like hell about money. I don't want to run out and be a burden to anyone. It's this totally unnecessary fear. I really thought that was a cool thing. And I would tell the people, it's the first 30 minutes of this podcast. Again, Chris Williamson and Arthur C. Brooks. It's really, really interesting how they go through it. And again, the last thing he says about that is like, once you know which one you are, you can pretty much going to be, oh yeah, that's why I always do the things I regret later. This will be the source of your future regret. And so just kind of being aware of that, I think is a really powerful place to be.
And what I think is even more, like, to take it another level, is all of it's learned. It's absorbed. It's imitated to you during your upbringing, that environment, the impression your parents placed upon you. So when you have that awareness and you can have the foresight, like, oh, this is the decision area where I'm going to have the most regret, you can begin to do that work on yourself, to unlearn it, to let go of some of those. And side note, Scott, hypnosis is a phenomenal way to let go of those irrational fears around money.
Well, I mean, we should do a session sometime. That'd be fun, actually. When I was talking to my therapist yesterday, that I talk with every single week, we went through, that's why I had the notes handy, as we went through all this. And she was like, well, in your upbringing, did anyone ever do that? Did anyone ever go broke? And my dad wasn't like crazy successful, but he was successful. I don't have any, I don't know where it comes from, but I've definitely just got this bizarrely stupid fear of it, even though, with all due arrogance, like, there's zero chance that happens. There's just zero chance that happens unless I live to 150. But it's like getting into that root of then your decisions that you make along those lines, because I do, again, I waste way too much energy thinking about it and stressing about it. And again, it's just eye-opening for me to look at it in that framing and try to then do better about it. Like, you know what, chill out a little bit, dude. So if I think that if everyone ran that exercise, it would probably help them. Again, that idea of what's my future regret going to be based on, is probably going to be something like that.
And what I would encourage everyone,
future regret for me would be, I wasted too much time, or I was too stressed around my kids. I was not as present as I needed to be because I was overly fixated on something that was, I mean, I may die tomorrow. I mean, just, you don't have a clue what's going to happen anyways. I know I just ramble, but I think that's the strangest part about life is, in my opinion, the most important information you could possibly have is when you're going to die. It would be freaky because you're counting down the time, but if you knew I'm going to live to 80 or I'm going to live to 56, the difference in how you would live your life and stress about certain things would be monumentally different. And it's just so, in my opinion, and again, this is maybe part of my neurosis around money, and it's like, well, sure, but I think that's the most important piece of information you could ever have, and it's the one thing you will never have. It's pretty wild.
Are you familiar with Jesse Itzler?
Oh, yeah.
So
I bought a big wall calendar one year. I'm going to do this. Didn't make it through the year with it.
Well, he has, I don't know if he still does. I imagine he does, though. He has a death countdown every day. On when he opens his computer, he knows I think he estimated to live to 85 years old.
Yeah.
Whatever. And it's like, okay, I've got X number of days, and he breaks it down. I've got 20 more summers with my kids, or that's, 5 visits a year, 10 more years. I've got 50 visits with my parents left. But I love, because it builds off of that framework you shared. It's like, shit, if I'm only going to see my mom and dad 50 more times, I'm going to be much more intentional in how I show up and spend that time with them.
I was literally discussing that with this girl I've gone on a few dates with last night, because her mom lives with her. She's got some cancer and whatever, but she's kind of frustrated with it a little bit. Sorry if you're listening, but I doubt she is. But she's frustrated, and I was kind of breaking that math down. If she moved out and she does have 5 years to live, like they say, you're really limiting down, because she's got a great relationship with her. It's just kind of frustrating being a 50-year-old woman that can't, do a little whatever. And I'm just like, my mom lives 10 minutes from me. We see each other at Lifetime Fitness, a time or two a week typically, but we don't just grab lunch or dinner nearly enough. And so even though she lives 10 minutes from me, we talk on the phone every single day. But actual in-person visits, just not nearly enough. And it's just wild how we can't all just say, this is what's important, and we're going to block off time to go do that more.
So I'm going to take it a different angle. And for those of you know, and you know this, you met my son, but I've got a 14-month-old son, and parenthood has drastically impacted how I view time, energy, my ability to be present, what really matters in my life. Like for so many listening, the same thing has happened as well. And, as I contemplate going back and forth, I want to be the best father I can be. I also want to, be the best business owner, coach, podcaster, and golfer I can be. And we get all these competing, conflicting priorities in our life. And what's helped me stay grounded in knowing I don't have to sacrifice that something I'm really committed to is knowing there's seasons of life. There's chapters of life. There's that famous graph out there where you spend roughly 90% of your time with your children. By the time they're 18, though, the amount you see them drastically is diminished. So just understanding there's seasons of life, whether that's a work priority, a relationship, time with your children, knowing there's seasons and there will be an opportunity to reshuffle priorities can free you up from that attachment or that scarcity mindset.
Again, that's what I started to say when I was wrapping up that last thought, was that, whatever the number is, 75, 80% of the time you'll ever spend with your kids is done by the time they leave the house from high school. And it is pretty wild when you think about it. I mean, I've been through so much stuff in the last 10 years with the double murder suicide with my sister and nephews, went through my ex-wife had an affair a few months later. Like, it was a total disaster. And as a result, I definitely was not in a good mental space for 5 or more years. Certainly drinking too much just to turn the brain off every night. And I was not remotely the dad I would hope I would have been. I try to give myself a little bit of grace of like, well, dude, you went through a lot of crazy shit, so it's okay. But it is interesting how hard it is to recognize all that in real time sometimes, of like, you're not going to get this time back and you're imprinting something you would not want your future self to see. Let's get proactive and figure out how to change this in real time, as opposed to eventually, we're just going to age into a new season of life and hopefully get through it. I mean, it's the same time of 2014, 15, 16, when I was starting Decade, was when all that was going on. And I was earning my super combative persona on Twitter. And I'm like, well, there's a decent chance I'd had a few drinks, and I'm definitely pretty pissed off at the world right now. So yeah, I'm not going to listen to you laying up spewed nonsense that you're just wrong on. Like, but it's funny if you connect the dots looking backwards, it's like, oh, a lot of that makes sense. I mean, why you were definitely not the same person I was before all of that happened. And it is interesting trying to get back more to that, how hard it is to do after you've worn that rut like water in a rock. It's just really hard to turn the clock back.
So I'm curious. I'm going to go a little vulnerable here. Obviously, share whatever you want to share. But are you a believer that when we go through these challenging, unimaginable circumstances, at some point they can be a catalyst for growth, positivity, or there is a silver lining?
Oh, for sure. But again, back to the idea of free will, you have to know how to look for that. In the middle of it, I mean, again, that's right when I was found the Tony Robbins stuff, 2013, 14, feel like I was on a pretty good path with what I was doing in life. And then my sister was murdered by her son, who then killed himself and his brother in April of 2016. And then, like I say, I caught my wife in an affair 4 months later. So I'm in the middle of complete wheels off. I didn't have the ability at the time, because I understood about meditation, but I wasn't as into it as I am now. I don't know how PG we keep this show, but doing mushrooms a few times a year to really help that meditation process and understand it's a cheat code to see this is where you're trying to get eventually in just a meditation. It's a total cheat code. And so once I did that for the first time in 2020, like, everything really changed for me. But I still had, moments of rage, for lack of a better way of saying it, through until, really the last year and a half. I would say I've been pretty good about understanding it. It's, it's gone from once a month to once a quarter to a couple times a year to finally like I feel free from this, where I just take my brain and I throw it out of my head for an hour and just destroy everything I can in my life. And then, that's not going to work out well long term.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious. Obviously, you knew what you knew back then, but what did that younger version of you need to hear that maybe he wasn't ready to hear as he navigated these unimaginable challenges and hardships? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that question in a moment.
It's funny because like I always just answer things too quick because I hate long pauses, but man, that's a really good question. For sure, the idea of meditation and that thoughts are just thoughts and they don't really do anything until you give them power. that's the one thing I feel like I got wrong with meditation when I tried it when I was younger. I would get
Yeah.
frustrated because I'd be sitting there and I'm trying to just follow my breath and every thought possible is still coming in my mind. Oh my God, that's a good thought. I got to write that one down because I'm not going to remember it. And I would just get frustrated. Tim Ferriss has a funny way that he says it, where he's like, I tried it when I was younger and then I would just get frustrated and slam a pot of coffee and storm out the front door. And that's basically who and how I was around it. But once I've now understand, again, through Sam Harris, that it's not about having no thoughts. It's about recognizing the ruminating thoughts before you've wasted minutes, days, hours, weeks, years on the same thought. And once you understand, again, that reframing, it's a huge, huge jump to, oh, look at that. Scott's thinking this crazy thing again. That's not helpful. And I didn't really understand what he said for a long time when he said in one of the meditations, guided meditations, he's like, I want you to listen for sounds. So you're just quiet.
Yep.
Like a car just drove by, but now it's gone. I'm not actively trying to think of that sound right now, but if something pops in your head that is not a great thought, we start attaching to it and again, ruminating on just playing that same, I had an argument. I keep replaying that argument. Oh man, I could have said this and that was a zinger, or I've got something coming up where I know it's going to be a difficult conversation. And this is what I want to say. Like, you're just wasting so much time and energy on things that once you understand, just like a sound, you can just release it.
Yeah.
It takes skill and it's hard to do, but you more importantly is you can at least recognize, I'm in a vulnerable spot here because I'm thinking the wrong things. Let's just not make the situation worse. Whereas, like I say, I used to just throw my brain out and just be like, I'm just going to go wheels off with whatever I feel like I need to do right now. As opposed now it's at least a notice of like, you should at least really think through the next 10 minutes of your life and what you do and don't say to people. And again, I also want to tell people like, this is the utopian answer. I'm not saying I'm good at this at all. I definitely screw that up a ton, but I'm better than I was, to your question, what did that younger guy need to know? I'm better than I was certainly in my 20s, 30s, 40s now that I'm 52. Like that's my 1% better every day is just continuing to work on that. For me, it's just the tide that lifts all boats.
Phenomenal answer. And I appreciate you sharing that. My context is everybody listening is going through shit. You listening right now might be going through one of the most challenging periods of your life. You've heard me not shy away. This past year of my personal life has been an absolute shit show, the most enduring I've faced yet to date. And what I remind myself is, I love what you said, you're not your thoughts. You can change your thoughts. You can detach from some of these thoughts that don't vibe with the direction you want to go, is also remembering that it's temporary. You can outlast it, but just like Scott mentioned, you can also prolong it by continuing to fuel that fire of chaotic energy and turmoil by not pausing, not having some type of reflective solitude silence practice where you can look within, clear your mind, get rid of those clouds that are not doing you any favors, and connect with the clarity and alignment you need to figure out a solution and a way forward.
Well, and you started that by saying everybody's going through shit. Not everybody is. But it's coming if you're not. I mean,
fair.
If you'd have told me in 2014 when I caddy for Zalatoris when he wins the Texas Am and US Junior, and then I teach Bryson everything when he wins, right before he wins the NCAAs and US Amateur, I'm on top of the world. My electricity company's still cruising. I got a 5 and a 1-year-old at home. I've got a great wife. Everything's clicking. And then if you'd have told me in April of 2016 that was going to happen, I would not have believed you, but it just came through what was going fairly well in life and just dropped a nuclear bomb on it that then sent me into a good 2 to 5 year. What am I doing? I mean, so it's coming. If you
tell me this, then
that's the point of developing skills is it's coming. So, there's a great, if you go to YouTube and search It Is Always Now, Sam Harris, it's just a great video talking about, all we truly have is this moment, and, and this, and that we have to remain present here because, and I'm trying to think exactly how he phrases it. He's like, basically just saying at some point in your life, you're going to get a cancer diagnosis. Someone is going to, and you're just going to, from out of the blue, it's just going to send your life into a tailspin. Like that is coming for everyone. I mean, you cannot avoid it. I mean,
Yeah.
actually, there's the golf coach from Nebraska. She was at Texas A&M when I was. Then she was at SMU when I taught everything to Bryson. So we've been friends for 30 plus years.
Uh-huh.
And she's really cool. Her name's Jeannie Sutherland. She's awesome. And she texted me back during Christmas. She's like, how you doing? And I really mean like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's been tough. Last year was a tough year for me also. And talking about basically the challenges of marriage and divorce and just everything. And she just, one of the most profound things anyone's ever said. I don't know if she said it before, if it just fell out of her mouth, but
Yeah.
Exactly how was it? Because I want to get it right. Life is messy. And if it's not messy, it's lonely. Meaning, if you're going to be in life, whether you've got relationships with, let's call it 4 to 8 people, like that you really care about, your wife, your kids, your parents. I'm not talking like, you seem like a nice guy. We're not best friends or anything like that. I'm rooting for you. But like, you've got 4 to 8 people that you really care about. And one of those 4 to 8 is going to have some crazy shit going on in their life. Like you said, you had a tough year last year. I wasn't aware of that. Feel bad for you. But the only way to not have it be really messy is to basically just be really lonely. And humans aren't designed for that. I mean, solitary confinement is a punishment in prison where you'd rather be around murderers and rapists than by yourself. Like, we're just not designed for that unless, you've got some serious mental illness going on. But once you understand that, it's like, again, once you understand and accept that fact, it helps you just, again, accept that fact. Like, there's just going to be, Jordan Peterson talks about like the Buddhist or whoever, basically every religion talks about life is suffering. And he's like, it's really not suffering. It's just unsatisfying. We're constantly fighting against the oddity of life, the hilariousness of all this chaos that's constantly going on. And I can't wait until this is over. The difficult part. And it's like, it's not going to be. And so if you keep on thinking it's going to be easy, you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, you're just going to live eternally frustrated with every small thing that's not going great in your life.
I love that you brought that up, because now I'm curious as I start connecting the dots around what we've discussed so far. These critical skills is how I'm going to loosely label them to ensure that you're ready for the inevitable storm, the unexpected challenges. That is a guarantee in life. Like I wrote down,
it's the seasons of life, like you were talking earlier. I mean,
yeah. So I wrote down continuing to expand self-awareness, the ability to think critically for yourself, and the ability to become aware of and to regulate your emotions. Would you say that's a powerful cocktail to continue this pursuit of fulfillment, actualization, whatever you want to call it?
Awareness is top of the list. I mean, and that's, I just feel like constantly quote people, but in another podcast I was listening to, he was like, everybody needs to meditate. And if you don't meditate, you probably are meditating, but on the wrong things. So you're just sitting there constantly ruminating. That's meditating, but you're meditating on the wrong stuff. Let's just try to learn how to move on from that. So it's like, even if you don't want to try it, then that means you probably already are. Yeah. I mean, this is again another Tim Ferriss thing where he says, if you're the kind of guy that says, I don't have 10 minutes to meditate every day, then you need to do it for 30. Yeah. I mean, like that's, if you're like, I don't have 10, well, you need to find 30 then, because you're not doing it right.
Yeah. I read a quote. Actually, I think I heard it I'm looking for the book. You Are Not Your Thoughts. It's Joseph Wynn. I'm butchering the title. I know that's not the exact title, but he says, an intelligent person is always learning. A wise person is always unlearning. And that was so profound to me, because the bulk of my work is unlearning all of these beliefs, these patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that were impressed upon us. But it comes back in beautifully to this self-awareness. You need to be aware of why you do what you do, why you crave these patterns of comfort, predictability, and familiarity, and understand in many ways they're not serving you. To get to that next level, the next step is the unlearning process.
Well, Josh Waitzkin talks about that a lot in The Art of Learning, is the last touch is unlearning. And making it just second nature, but getting rid of all these cognitive biases we all have of how certain things we wish it was this way. And then that last I was fighting with, when Como was working with Tiger, we were arguing about what he needed to be focusing on, because I had thought he was not back to his meditation process the way that he needed to be. He had mentioned that when he gave his first interview after the scandal and everything on the back porch at Lake Nona with Tom Rinaldi. He asked him, first question was just like, what happened? And Tiger said, I got away from my Buddhist values. I stopped my meditation practice. I felt very entitled. And that's when I was talking about, like, he needs to get back into that. And he's just like, it's all his physical stuff, which honestly, looking back, is interesting because Como's a super California-y, deep thinking guy. I was surprised that he was disagreeing as much, but then talking about strategy and shaping driver one way and other stuff. What I said to him is I was like, dude, I have forgotten more about how to play golf than you've ever even known. You understand the swing better than I do, but I understand how to play the game 1,000 times more than you do. And that was that deep unlearning of what does and doesn't work, and how to, again, focus on what actually matters.
Yeah. For someone listening,
that comment did not go over well, by the way.
For someone listening, we've had the pleasure of talking about Sam Harris, the Waking Up app. I personally use it as well. I've used it for years now. The impact it's had on me, you, people you've recommended it to. Someone's on the fence. They're curious. They understand logically the benefits of meditation. They're more open than ever before. If you could advise them on a next step, like they're going to commit 10 minutes a day, and that's all Sam Harris's 28-day course meditations are. They're 10, 11 minutes. Like, as they gain that awareness, as they sit in silence and solitude, what do you recommend they do next to complement that awareness they gain?
I think the biggest challenge with meditation is, and the best analogy that I've come up with is, if you needed to lose 100 pounds, and I was like, hey man, it's really simple. We're going to eat lean proteins, healthy vegetables, cut out the sugar, cut out the majority of carbs. We're going to exercise, nothing crazy, 45 minutes, a few days a week. Like, you can have a couple cheat meals a week, but just for the most part, every meal doesn't have to be a Picasso. Like, sometimes we're just eating just because we just need fuel. But you've got to do that every day for somewhere between 15 and 18 months. And you're not going to lose a single pound. And then one day you're going to wake up and the whole 100's going to be gone and you're going to be chiseled. That's what meditation is. It's going to feel totally pointless because you're going to suck at it for a long, long, long time. But at some point, you're going to be in a situation and you're going to be like, I feel like I should be a lot madder than I am right now. And you're going to recognize that it's coming through. That's the biggest problem with it. So, like, next steps is just, you have to just stick with it. I mean, and again, the reason I like Sam Harris is so much more, he's a Stanford trained neuroscientist. He's smart as anyone on the planet. But interestingly, when he took a gap year, you can drop out of Stanford and go back in whenever you want. He took a year or two and went on these meditation retreats to India. He did, mushrooms and everything else, and sat in a cave. Like, he did a 3-month silent retreat. The vast majority of people that do that is a one-way ticket to being a monk and never coming back. He did it. Okay, now I've learned a lot, came back and is like, here's how it works, in my opinion. That's the difference. And I shouldn't keep on pooping on Calm and Headspace and the other apps. I haven't listened to them in 5 or more years, so who knows. The thing I like about Sam is he teaches you how to bring it from, he talks about, like, you got to take the meditation off the cushion, how to get it into your life. And when I tried it when I was younger, I would just finish a session and then get up and just go right back to my normal self. And in that 28, when I did it, it was a 58-day course or 50-day course. I need to do the 28-day to find out exactly when this is. But at some point along the way, he talks to you for a minute or two, gives you a few minutes of silence, talks to you for a minute or two, and then gives you something. Usually the last minute is my favorite of his. But at one point in the introductory course, he's like, okay, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to get up and I want you to take this state into your day. And it's just so painfully obvious that's the point. But it never dawned on me until he said it. And so the one thing that I think he does better than the other apps that I'm aware of is he teaches you how to bring it out into your daily life then. And he talks about, in moments of transition, getting into the car or brushing your teeth or whatever, try to snap into that in a 10-minute meditation. That 8th minute is kind of like when you're usually in the best state. Try to practice just immediately. He just calls it immediately arrive or begin again. Like if you're getting distracted while you're in a meditation, hey, don't get mad, just begin again. Or, if you're starting to treat it as a muscle that you're learning, you will be able to just snap into that 8th minute better and better and better. Or again, at least you'll recognize I'm not.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge, so like when I played final stage of Champions Tour Q School, December 2024, I triple the 4th hole of the tournament where there's, 5 cards available. And it's like, that's really not going to help you finish in the top 5. And I wanted to be pissed off, but I just got in a really bad spot in a desert after slipping. I slip on my second shot on this winter rye, pull it in the desert, and I'm just in an awful spot, make 8 on a par 5 that I'm hitting a 3-iron at in 2. And I just wanted to be mad, but I at least was able to say like, okay, you're steaming right now. Let's just make clear decisions. Give yourself 20 seconds of focused attention to hit this shot. And then you can be as mad as you want to for the next 3 minutes until you get to your golf ball again. And eventually we're just going to work our way out of it. I was not going to kid myself into not being pissed off right then. So let's be very aware of that and just make some good decisions here. So
I
again,
think that's a mistake most people make.
What's that?
I think that's a mistake most people make is they try to repress or deny the emotion they're feeling. And then they get tight, tense, and underneath that frustration boils into full-blown fucking rage eventually.
It's a snowball effect. And this is where, again, working with the best players in the world like I do, when I go out and I observe them in a tournament or whatever, and they miss a 8-foot putt and they kind of like get mad a little bit, what I try to tell them, I'm like, you're priming yourself to where if you do this on 3 out of 5 shots, and then you get up on a par 4 and you actually do hit it out of bounds or in the water or something like that, you've primed the pump with what really wasn't that big of a deal. And now when a big deal actually happens, you're set to explode. Yeah. And so it's that how you do anything is how you do everything idea. Like you need to not be over dramatizing, not interesting, bad outcomes. I've watched a player I won't name, but I watched him miss like a 12-footer on 13 at the Byron Nelson here. And he just pulls his hat down. He just stood on the side of the next hole is kind of drivable. So it's like a 15-minute backup usually. And he just literally pulled his hat down and he just stood there like this. And I was like, man, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. When I got home, I went into ShotLink because I just picked him up on 13 and he had missed like a 12-footer, a 15-footer, a 9-footer, and then that 12-ish footer in a row. So he's just steamy, but I'm like, I get it. One of those mathematically could have gone in, but the 15-footer is a 22% make rate on tour. Like missing 4 of those in a row was just not interesting. Like it sucks. I get it. I could have birdied the last 4 holes. You could have, and that would have been even more bizarre. Making 3 of those 4 putts would have been way more bizarre. Making 2 of the 4 putts would have been way more bizarre than missing all 4 from a mathematical point of view. And it's just like you have primed the pump, and then he gets up there and hit a terrible tee shot on this drivable par 4. And it's like, what did you think that standing there on the tee like this was gonna? I can only imagine the Vietnam that was going on in his head. It was not pretty thoughts. I swear to God, he didn't budge for over 10 minutes.
So let's get you out of here on this. This has been phenomenal, wide ranging, just like I knew would be incredibly insightful. And candidly, I believe our listeners have suddenly slipped into a hypnotic meditative trance, if you will, as they listen to us. What's the one aspect, the one last word that you hope they will really hang their hat on and take with them into the next part of their day?
Again, this what we've talked about, just a thought is nothing more than a thought. It only has power once you give it power and or dwell on it. That really is true at the end of the day. You really, this gets a little metaphysical for people, but you're not the thinker of your thoughts. You're just not. You don't know what the next thought is going to come into your head. And it may or may not be crazy. It may or may not be productive, but you just simply don't know. You have no idea where thoughts come from. And again, Sam's got a way he's talking about, think of a movie. Like, why did that movie, whatever you just thought of, why did that one pop in your head and not Red Dawn? Like, why did Red Dawn just pop in my head? I haven't seen that movie in God knows how long. Like, why did that movie, out of all the movies in the entire world, something from 40 years ago just popped in my head? That makes no sense. And so understanding that you just aren't the thinker of your thoughts. They are just random things that pop into your head, and they only matter if you give them the power to matter. And that's just it. That's just, again, it's a super spiritually woo-woo-y sounding idea, but the next thought that pops in your head, just think, where did that come from? I mean, you just have no idea, especially on the golf course.
Wedding Crashers. That's the movie that popped in my head.
Wedding Crashers. Very nice. Yeah. That's a good one.
And for those of you listening, I can't stress this enough. Success leaves clues, and I'm the first to go the woo-woo direction. I know Scott is there, or even 2 steps ahead of me, which I love and admire and learn from. But when Scott starts bringing in, or we start discussing some of these metaphysical, spiritual, meditative topics, and as you've listened to the 130 plus episodes on this show, and you've heard these topics multiple times from multiple guests, some alarm bells should go off in your mind. These are ideas, actions worth pursuing, and meditation should be the low-hanging fruit that you explore and make a non-negotiable in your life. Scott, remind our listeners, where can they go to connect with you, learn from you, sign up for Decade?
Just on Instagram is the only social I do anymore, just decade_golf. We're finally growing up as a company. We've got the domain decade.golf up and running. I hate saying it because it's my product, but I really do believe it's really cool. The way we've designed the tutorial content, and then the stats reinforce what you've learned in the tutorial content. It goes and finds the mistakes that you're making strategically and mentally. Obviously, we've got stats just for your physical game, whatever. But I do believe that my combination of being pretty good with math, really good with logic, and really good at golf, I'm not the best at any of those, but I'm really good at all of them. And I think that the combination of that has allowed me. And then it's just basically a 50-year, dude, this is why I called it Decade. Like, we're going to take decades off your learning curve. You're going to be good at golf. You're going to learn this stuff eventually. And so it's like, let the mistakes that I've made, people always say, like, you're so cocky. I'm like, I'm explicitly saying this is all the dumb stuff I've done. I'm not, I didn't figure this out whenever I was playing professionally. It is the furthest thing from that. Like, I am an idiot, and I'm trying to help you not have to be an idiot for however long.
Scott, always a blast. As always, I appreciate your vulnerability, man. Thank you so much.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in to another episode here. So much wisdom, so much insight, so much knowledge to apply, to take action on. Make sure you listen to this again. You take notes, you apply what Scott shared with us today, and go share it with a buddy, a fellow golfer, so that collectively all of you can raise your game both on and off the course. And if you haven't done so already, it takes 30 seconds to leave a genuine rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Remember, the month of February, my push is to get 100 authentic reviews and ratings on Apple Podcasts. Your one rating goes a long way in helping me achieve that goal. Thank you again for listening. Hit them straight this weekend, and we'll catch you in the next episode.